my favorite thing about the movie is like it feels like a movie. It feels like a real go to the theater film movie.
The script was written, the scenes were directed, the sets were designed, the costumes were worn, and the characters were acted. I'll tell you what, Harry Styles of acting. My most favorite thing about Back to the Future is that it doesn't just feel like a movie. Instead, it feels like a longer episode of Family Ties with a whole new cast of characters and settings surrounding Michael J. Fox, Kristen Kaufman, and Crispin Glover.
Well, it's not my first mission. It's my first solo mission.
Yeah, and I'm going with them.
I'm telling you, George, if you do not ask Lorraine to that dance, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life.
But I can't go to the dance. I'll miss my favorite television program, science fiction theater.
Back to the Future is also a great classic film that fared much better than Don't Worry, Darling, and aged pretty well in 37 years, because unlike Olivia Wilde misunderstanding about what makes female pleasure empowering, or Olivia Wilde about misinforming us about Jordan Peterson, Back to the Future, even back in 1985, did a much better job of tackling and exploring the topics of 1950s misogyny much better than Don't Worry, Darling did it. Back when Leah Thompson made All the Right Moves with Tom Cruise 2 years before Back to the Future, she didn't want to play the female lead because Michael Caine and Michael Chapman had 2 scenes where she would need to get nude, and Tom Cruise stood up for Leah Thompson by agreeing to get nude with her so that she wouldn't feel too uncomfortable doing it alone. Tom Cruise wanted to make sure that Leah Thompson wouldn't be alone in this, and he also wanted to be absolutely fair by giving film audiences who like nudity something to look at for both genders. It's fair to have for both genders of lead actors to get nude in the same R-rated film. Lorraine Baines was a flawed but still very deep and smart, independent woman who likes boys that can protect the girls they love. Like Calvin Klein and George McFly, and not boys who objectify them and prey on them and sexually harass them like Biff Tannen is doing. So yeah, Back to the Future doesn't just feel like a movie that's going through the motions and driving a car around in circles in an old, idyllic, colorful 1950s cul-de-sac like the one we get to see in Don't Worry, Darling, which is a movie that is now infamous for having a plot that just goes around in circles. It's like there's a first act and a third act, but there's no second act in the middle. It's just the lead character Florence Pugh is playing and just trying to uncover the mystery all throughout, and the story just really needed to have more to happen over the course of 2 hours, and it surely could have. Luckily, by the time the film premiered, Florence Pugh and Chris Pine had enough of Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles rubbish. That's why Florence Pugh didn't show up to the premiere to a premiere of Don't Worry, Darling with the rest of the main cast, and why Harry Styles appeared to spit on Chris Pine during the International Venice premiere. Yeah, Back to the Future doesn't just feel like a movie because it's not going through the motions like Don't Worry, Darling, because Back to the Future was a financially successful film without having an all-star cast like Don't Worry, Darling, because Back to the Future had a much better, much more enjoyable, and somewhat less problematic story than Don't Worry, Darling. Okay, it was a little problematic, but at least the execution of Back to the Future story told a much better message to the audience than Don't Worry, Darling. I mean, it was bad that Lorraine fell in love with her son from the future, but at least she had a decency he realized when she crossed the line, because when she kissed him in the car, she didn't know that he was her son from the future, but she still knew that something felt wrong. She said that kissing Calvin Klein, also known as Marty McFly, was like she's kissing her brother, or one of her 3 brothers. That's why Don't Worry Darling failed in some of the same areas in which Back to the Future succeeded. I mean, if one of the best things you can say about Don't Worry Darling is that it just feels like a movie, then I don't know what else to tell you, because that's not a good sign if you can't say anything memorable or unique about it as a film. Besides, if I wanted to see a mediocre film that looks cool because it has a lot of amazing, trippy, imaginative visuals and Chris Pine, I'd rather go watch Wrinkle in Time instead, because that doesn't accidentally teach a bad message about female pleasure the way Don't Worry Darling did. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content, for more insightful content like this from Adamphibia called Boonchoy.
If you can go away and think about, have something to think about afterwards, think art, if it moves you, whether it upsets you or makes you feel happy or makes you feel powerful or makes you think, is what art's for. You know, I don't think you have to feel really comfortable through a film to think that it's a really great film. I think sometimes the best films are the ones that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable.